So I'm Douglas Rathbun. I'm the chairman of the board of PostClassical Ensemble, and I'm here today with Ángel Gil-Ordóñez, the conductor and music director of PCE, and we're going to chat over cocktails about the conductor as a profession. Today's cocktail is the Martini, specifically the original recipe from when it first appeared in cocktail books in 1888. My inspiration for this cocktail is that the conductor as a profession, separate from a composer, a Kapellmeister, or a performer, emerged in the 19th century, parallel to the emergence of the cocktail in the United States. In 1884, the Manhattan cocktail first appeared in print, and that year, Arthur Nikic, one of the first great conductors, premiered Bruckner's 7th Symphony. In 1888, 4 years later, the Martini emerged, a gin-based variation on the Manhattan. And that year also saw the premieres of Mahler's 1st Symphony, Tchaikovsky's quintessential 5th Symphony, and Rimsky-Korsakov's Scheherazade. So let's get these cocktails mixed. The Martini is an elegant blend of gin and vermouth. For the gin, we use Old Tom, which is what was called for in the 1880s by Harry Johnson, Theodore Proulx, and even later by John Applegreen. I'm using Hayman's, but another authentic option is a barrel-aged Old Tom from Ransom. Bartenders at the time also would have used Jennifer, such as in Byron's 1884 Martinez, or the Turf Club from the same year. Bols, which is easily found, goes well, or Rutt Old Simon. For the vermouth, the earlier recipes called for Italian vermouth, that is Torino-style. So, Carpano, Martini from Pessione just outside Torino, or here I'm using Cocchi. Since 1888, vermouths have added color. So for authentic color, Del Professore makes a light-colored Torino style. Early recipes called for equal quantities. Stirred, strained into a fancy glass, and garnished with a twist of lemon. Cheers.
Cheers.
So Ángel, what's the path to becoming a conductor? How do you go from being a musician to being a conductor?
Well, being a conductor is actually an accident, so to say. But you are first a musician. So
Right.
either you, in my case, I started my whole musical experience singing as a boy.
Okay. And you played an instrument as well.
Of course. Then I studied guitar, I studied accordion. That was my first instruments when I was very little. And then at some point, the violin was my main instrument. But I think that is important to say. The first thing is you're a musician, and then later you decide to be a conductor.
When did you decide that you would become a conductor?
So that came actually much later. I was very passionate about playing the violin. Becoming a conductor was a late epiphany. It was actually, I remember perfectly, April 1978 in Madrid. I was visiting concerts all my life, and then an extraordinary conductor showed up in Madrid with the London Symphony. This incredible musician was Sergiu Celibidache, who later became my mentor. But that experience, listening to that orchestra conducted by him, this is what I want to do.
So what do you do before the first downbeat of the first rehearsal? What is the planning and preparation that's involved, and how do you spend your time preparing?
Yes, the process of conducting, as you know, I would say is a three-part process. So you have to prepare the music, you have to convey the music during rehearsals, and then you open, so to say, that experience to an audience. The preparation is crucial, which is studying the score. And I love a sentence, a phrase attributed to Mahler that said, a musical score contains everything but the essential. I would like to add to that actually the essential is there, but you have to find it. And that this, which is what makes music so magical. It happens once and disappears. You know, that's one of the beautiful things about making music.
And for a piece that you've never performed before, how much time goes into preparing for that first rehearsal?
Well, it's true. I mean, for a new piece, it takes you much more time. I can tell you that the way I learn a score is the same way I read a book. Well, it's not true, because when I get a piece that I have never conducted, I go through the whole piece first, you know, first view. But then I started learning it as if I were reading a book, being surprised by everything that is happening, very slowly. And of course I try, if I have the time, I try to memorize as much as I can from a score, because I think it's very important. I mean, the difference between conducting from memory and having the score is substantial. And unfortunately, sometimes I don't have the time for preparation for something like that, but as much as I can, I try to memorize the music.
Okay. How do you think about how you're going to approach a piece? What do you look for in the score to work on?
I always say that the word that defines better a conductor is to unify. So in the end, what we do is we create units from complexities. So a score is a multiplicity of elements there, and you have to find the unit of all things. So the first thing you look for when you're in front of a piece of music is the basic thing, which is the pulse. For that, you have to look at all the factors that contain the score, which is the melodic factor, the rhythmic factor, and the harmonic factor. So once you have that ideas solved, then you start looking at the structure of the piece, which is actually the most important thing. Celibidache would say, sound is not music. Sound can become music. And this is, to me, the essence of everything. Just having 100 people playing the notes that are written in a score together and in tune is already fascinating. But the difference between conducting and creating the essence of that the music contains is what makes the difference. You know? In the end, what is music? That's probably the first question we have to ask ourselves. Well, music in the end is, you know, the structure is very simple. You start in silence, you create tension, you develop the tension, and you go back to silence. So the discovery of that structure is the most complex part in music. In the end, you are living a life while you are performing the piece. It's a life in itself.
Yeah, in a way you're turning sound into emotion.
Exactly.
So the baton, some conductors use the baton, some conductors don't. Some use it sometimes and not other times. What are your thoughts?
The baton is actually facilitates the visuality of the gesture. So that's the reason. So imagine that when I'm conducting, I have people that are separated from me 20 to 30 feet, okay? So this helps immensely to, you see that? Look at this. I'm beating an alla breve, a 2/4. And now look. You see how clear it says that? Especially for those who are over there, you know? So that's the reason. It's just and actually, I think there is a historical reason for that. As you know, and this is why the concertmaster comes, the name of the concertmaster was the first violin. and he would be cues with the bow.
Yeah.
So somehow it's a reminiscence of the bow as a reference for musicians playing. But what happens? Do we need the baton to conduct a choir? I don't think so. I will never conduct a choir with a baton. It's aggressive even, don't you think? So with a choir, you don't need that precision that instruments also need. This accuracy in attacks, etc. You can do that perfectly with the hands. And then, as you said, sometimes I'm conducting and I leave the baton and I just go back to the hands because the expressivity of hands are much more than that. So it takes out a little bit expression, but it gives us accuracy. That's the reason of the baton. It's
Right.
only that.
Yeah, because with a choir, all the singers have the same instrument, but with an orchestra, there are different instruments, and the approach in starting the sound is different for each one of them.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
well, it has been a pleasure exploring this topic with you today. Thanks for joining us. Please follow PCE on social media, sign up for our mailing list, and we appreciate your support, and we hope to see you at our concerts soon.